Yo, what's going on, gamers? It's Ryan 6 days a week, and I hope you've been well. I hope you've been enjoying your summer, and I want to apologize for disappearing for yet another month. I know in the last video, a month ago, I said I was going to be back, maybe playing some more Dark and Darker or other games, but then they flipped a bunch of changes, again. And as I understand, they kind of flipped them back with this most recent wipe, so the game seems to be in a better spot. But I just thought to myself, why am I just making all these videos, throwing out all these cool ideas, and gathering all this input from creators and community members in the space, just for it to be more or less ignored? So I came to the conclusion that there really is no reason for me just to wait around for my dream game to show up. It'll probably never happen. I gotta start making it myself. And over the last 4 to 5 weeks, that's what I started doing. This video is going to be about sharing that work so far in 4 parts. First, I want to pitch you the game. I want to tell you about the world of the Underkeep that I'm creating from a pretty general perspective. We won't dive into all the fine details in this video. Those will be in the following devlogs. Next, I want to show you the progress so far. Trust me, I want to start making these devlog type videos from week 1, but it was mostly just back-end code and making sure multiplayer was communicating and replicating properly. Not really visual stuff that I could show yet, but I'm finally now able to throw some paint on the foundation and record some footage that isn't just random lines and blocks of code. Next, I want to tell you about the team behind the Underkeep and how I plan to grow it in the future. And finally, I want to share with you my next steps in developing this game, as well as what you could do if you want to be a bigger part of this community, help shape the future of the game, and of course follow its progress. The Underkeep is going to be a class-based dark fantasy extraction game with a heavy focus on exploration and random dungeon encounters. Sure, I want you to be able to plan out what you're going to do when you first embark on an adventure, but I also want you to have to react to a changing and unpredictable dungeon environment. As you travel deeper into the dungeon, you'll find stronger monsters and dangers, but of course, we'll be rewarded with more powerful gear and greater riches. Death, for the most part, will be incredibly unforgiving and punishing. The Underkeep is going to be a full loot game, as in players can take any item off you if they defeat you in combat. But there will be loot recovery in earlier layers of the dungeon, but less and eventually none the deeper you go. I'll be developing this game to be an online multiplayer PvPvE game with an offline PvE mode to follow down the line. I will make no attempts at all to combine the two playstyles. PvE will be an entirely separate game with no shared progress or items. Now, let's talk about traversing the dungeons. A complete adventure will consist of 4 dungeon maps that can be unidirectionally traversed, meaning you could really only go down. Each map will have a set amount of explorer time before certain death, and each layer will refill the lobby through matchmaking. That means all players will enter the maps at the same time, at the start of the round. There will be no continuous backfill of players, and at the start you'll only be able to select and know your first 2 map layers. Map layers 3 and 4 are revealed to the player in forms of portals at the end of layer 2. I know this all sounds a bit tedious, but just remember I said at the start. I'll add more details on this in a little bit. Now, for the time spent in between the layers, you'll be placed into an explorable room where you could choose to interact with other players or various NPCs. This will be optional. To explain it better, the first transition lobby will be a tavern. You and your team will be spawned into a small locked room that you can decide to unlock if you want to explore the shared tavern area. Doing so, you get access to the knowledge of who you're up against, but then you're letting others see your team and the gear you're wearing. Special transition lobbies will have a small chance to appear after every dungeon. In these special transition lobbies, you may find a unique merchant, so it's always worth bringing in some gold. Or you may find an enchanted pond where exceedingly rare fish may be caught. Or endless veins of ore, where your only limitations are how fast you can mine and how much you could carry. Keep these transition lobbies in mind. We'll touch on this topic a little bit later as well. Now, the world below. What will these dungeons actually consist of? The dungeon maps themselves will be procedurally assembled and consist of various randomized tiles. These tiles can be general and contain basic mobs and chests. or resource focus, so fishing spots, mining spots, or even herbalism spots. Maybe even crafting focus, like a special forge that rerolls upgrades or maybe destroys your gear piece. Or a cooking station that provides even stronger buffs than what you'd normally get when cooking at the tavern. For the event, puzzle, and boss tiles, those are fairly self-explanatory, but do keep them in mind because we're going to talk about them again when we discuss traveling to layers 3 and 4. As for the map and minimap, it will not be a physical item. You'll always have access to it through your character UI, but there will be fog of war. Do note here, the game will be designed in such a way that you'll be able to reveal large areas of the map every round. Some things I'm working on right now is making so campfires reveal a growing radius of the minimap the longer you sit at it. Beacons and shrines will be scattered throughout the map that reveal a large area around the player when interacted with, or a specific room. Also, your round's Fog of War reveal progress can be merged and shared with other players, not always through violent means. As for Battle Royale and enclosing playable area mechanics, there will be none, unless it's related to a very rare and randomly occurring map-wide special event, typically reserved for Layer 4 maps. There would be no good reason for me to build unique dungeon rooms without giving you the proper time to explore them. Forcing player encounters on every single map is not something I'm interested in. You should be able to weigh out the risk versus rewards yourself. I'm more interested in giving you things worth fighting over. As for the specific POI examples, we'll save this for another video. It deserves it. But, of course, if you have any unique ideas that you think would fit in this game, please do share them. Input from the community is and always has been a very large part of my creative process. Alright, now before we move on to class discussion, let's loop back and bring in all those points that we said would touch on later. Because we're going to be speaking on traveling to layers 3 and 4, the deeper layers of the dungeon. To actually go from layer 2 to 3, you will need to clear a map event, complete a puzzle, or slay one of the bosses to continue. When one of these conditions is met, up to 3 portals will spawn, giving you options on where to explore next. Harder challenges will give you more options and more control on where you're going to go. These portals will be unique in appearance to give you the crucial insight on where you're actually going. Using this design approach will allow me to seamlessly swap and add in new map sets without greatly affecting the core gameplay loop. But will these deeper dungeons always be this random? Earlier I said you can only pick your first map at the start. Well, gold can be used to skip the earlier part of the adventure, the first 2 layers, the upper keep. You've probably already figured it out on your own now, but this game will have no high roller, elite, veteran, whatever you want to call it, lobby. It's technically all just one queue that continuously merges the deeper you go. There'll just be different starting points, and a large enough map to give you enough time to gear up before you go on to the next layer and face stronger players. I'm very comfortable making the game like this from the start because the game itself will be self-found. Well, technically partially self-found. You can always share and exchange items between your own characters. And if down the line, if a trading post were ever to exist, it will be strictly for only crafting materials and utility items. Self-found won't eliminate Timmy stomping completely, but it will make it definitely not worth it. Now, what about your group of friends that you always play with? It's a little weird not being able to share items with them, right? Well, this is where adventuring guilds come in. Adventuring guilds can be formed and joined at level 20 and will have a very limited number of spots. Right now I'm thinking somewhere between 10 and 12. Adventuring guilds will give you more than just a cloak skin. They'll give you access to the guild stash where you can freely share items between guildmates. And to prevent RMT and workarounds to the self-found limitations, joining a guild will be account-wide and something you could do only every 14 days. Alright, that's enough about how the dungeon functions. Let's talk about classes and characters. The Underkeep will feature 12 total classes based off of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. These classes, Fighter, Wizard, Cleric, Ranger, Rogue, Warlock, Paladin, Barbarian, Sorcerer, Bard, Monk, and Druid, will likely be released in the order that they appear on this list, with the first 4 being worked on right now. Your class choice will be decided when you create your player character, and will give access to specific gear, weapons, skills and abilities, perks, and base attributes. Upon reaching the required level, you'll be given the option to subclass. This is a further specialization into a specific aspect of your class. By subclassing, you'll be given more perk options as well as a guaranteed passive effect, which can be a trade-off in some situations. Subclassing is optional and it can be undone. On perks, you'll be able to equip up to 8 different perks at the same time, broken up into 3 groupings. Race perks, which are typically non-combat focused and aid the player in dungeon activities. Class perks, which are specific to your player class choice and are typically combat focused. And then subclass perks, which are unlocked once you hit the required level to subclass and will enhance your character in that specific way. I'll show a couple examples for some human-like perks and for some dwarf-like perks. I am using those terms specifically, human-like and dwarf-like, since the perk pools themselves will be shared between races of similar hitbox size and shape. My 3 main goals when designing this system was to allow each particular race to express their lore and thematic background as an actual game function, 2, to allow for easy balance between different hitbox shapes and sizes, and 3, to prevent any pay-to-win mechanics, all while providing a great way to support the game. For class perks, your character will be able to equip up to 3, starting at level 5 and with a new slot granted at 10 and 15. Though these perks will typically be combat focused, some will be combat adjacent and aid you in other ways in the dungeon. Let's look at the wizard for example. Phantom Palm. Magic Hand has 50% more interaction speed, casts quietly, and can now be used to pickpocket enemies. I'm using the general term enemy here since it means players as well as dungeon monsters. Some monster types, typically humanoids, will have a second inventory that's only accessible through pickpocketing or a unique interaction like that. These hidden pockets will typically give you gold, which again can be used to restock on special utility items in between layers, or from some mobs a small chance for a unique key that gives you access to locked rooms. This example is just one of the many ways that you could build to be non-combat focused and still be an effective dungeon explorer. Next, let's talk about subclassing, which unlocks at level 20, gives an unremovable passive effect, and opens up an additional perk slot, as well as more perk slots at 25 and 30. The passive effect that's applied to you when you confirm your subclass is typically a positive leaning trade-off, so your class gets greatly enhanced in one direction, but weakened in a different way. If you choose not to subclass, you can actually fill these 3 additional perk slots with your base class perks, and of course give up the subclass passive. This is all much more easily explained with an example. Let's say a wizard player decides to subclass into the fire mage subclass. Doing so gives a wizard immediate access to level 3+ fire magic spells, as well as a 15% increase in damage output for all fire type magic damage. However, casting speed and number of spell charges for all other forms of magic is reduced by 30%. The subclass also allows the wizard to now equip the various fire mage perks, which I'll let you pause and read here if you'd like. More examples of this can be found on the Discord. Alright, now let's move on to the progress so far, so what I've been doing these last 4 or 5 weeks in regards to developing the game. Again, I'm going to skip over all the non-visual stuff, which unfortunately is the bulk of the work that has been done so far on this game, like the server client architecture, validation methods, and optimizations. The first thing I want to show you is the procedurally generated, or more so assembled, dungeon. Each of these individual tiles will be handcrafted and serve a specific purpose in the dungeon. What you're seeing here is the assembly of the 6 different tile types that we discussed earlier: general, resource, crafting, event, puzzle, and boss. Again, these are very simplified versions. That's why they look just like white cubes. My goal right now when I'm developing these parts of the game aren't necessarily to make it look good, I just want it to perform properly. What I've developed here allows me to scale the map to any size, choose the number of tiles that get filled in, and pick exactly how many tiles of each type appear. Additionally, this is all going to be dynamic nav mesh friendly. It's a really lightweight system. For those who don't really know what that means, the system is already developed to work with roaming bosses and mobs. I also wanted the system to account for larger room sizes and different starting seed shapes, which could lead to some pretty cool map themes. I really couldn't find an existing solution out there that would fit my needs in developing the Underkeep, so that's why I spent so much time building my own from scratch. I I really do think it will pay off in the long run. Map generation will be such a massive part of the game, and I want to be able to equip my designers with the proper tools they need from the start. Now, this video is already hitting over 15 minutes, so to keep things short, I'm going to move on to combat, starting with magic. Magic in the Underkeep is going to be loud, flashy, and colorful. I'm not saying that to convince you that it's going to look cool. It'll look cool. But I'm saying that to tell you that there's going to be lots of visual and audio cues on what kind of spell is coming your way. The foundation I've developed right now for the wizard class makes it so each spell derives from either a hit scan, a projectile, or an AoE. As for magic damage types, the wizard can currently use fire, water, typically in the form of ice, arcane, and lightning. I'm starting with just a small, reasonably sized scope for now, since I do want to have completed subclasses for fire, water, again in the form of ice, and arcane on the wizard's initial release. I know this really doesn't sound like much, but if we combine those 3 hit detection methods with on-hit effects, we could create a whole bunch of spells that do more than just raw damage. Which brings me to my next section, character stats. In the Underkeep, I've currently implemented 8 primary stats. I know it does sound like a lot, but I swear they all serve a very unique purpose. I want to just stick to the visuals for this in progress section of the video, so I'll just show you how they're currently tracked in the UI, and move on to melee combat so we could keep this video going. I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but I am really proud of how melee is handled in the multiplayer setting, and how it's calculated and validated. For this particular system, that's where the bulk of the time went to. But there are some cool visual things I can show you. The system I've developed so far allows for 1, every weapon to have a light attack chain and a heavy attack chain. 2, for most weapons to have some sort of blocking functionality. And 3, for all weapons that can block, some sort of parry and repose sequence. I've also incorporated 3 different levels of blocking stagger to make the increased impact power provided with heavy attacks worth it. For example, you currently cannot riposte off of a heavy block stagger unless you meet certain conditions, which are typically provided by specific perks, skills, and buffs. For the riposte themselves, they'll not all just be damage focused. Some may be a knockback effect or a perk based debuff like bleed. Now for this last little sneak peek at the progress so far, I won't say anything, I'll just give you a little teaser of the inventory systems and let you fill in the details yourself. Now, let's talk about the team behind the Underkeep at this current moment. And well, if you've been part of this channel for a while, you probably already know what I'm going to say here. Right now, it's just me. Just like the videos on this channel, I've never hired an editor or contracted out work. The progress so far has been just from one person, but it won't always be like that. I will eventually need your help playtesting the game, voting on content polls, and building out the lore-rich world of the Underkeep. Now I know I just said I was working on this project solo, But it definitely doesn't feel like that, as I've been getting support from experts already in the industry. I do want to use this moment to thank Evgeny from Novozhilov 3D. I've been speaking with him over email for the last couple of weeks, and he actually let me use the night model that you see in this video completely for free for this project. His art style perfectly matches what I'm going for in the Underkeep, and once properly funded, I would love to contract some specific pieces from him. His model work is rooted in historic European armor sets, with fantasy inspirations mostly stemming from the Lord of the Rings and Dark Souls. He is leagues ahead of me in anything 3D modeling related, and I am not afraid to admit that one bit. He spends time watching lectures about medieval armor, going to museums, and studying reenactment videos. He is the embodiment of passion, and I mean that. I know he gave me these models for free to use, but when funding does come in, I want to make sure he's properly compensated. I'll link his ArtStation and Fab down below so you could check out some of his stuff. It's awesome. Now, what's next? Well, for me, the steps are pretty clear. I needed to continue developing the foundation of the game so I could start bringing in new engineers into the project. I will also begin looking at fundraising options. The website I made for you last month, that was something that I don't mind paying out of pocket. Doesn't cost too much to upkeep per month, and it's relatively low maintenance. For an online multiplayer game, the monthly cost goes way up, and servers are not something I'm wanting to go cheap on. I want to give you the best, lowest latency experience possible. That's why I have such a huge emphasis on optimizations, even in just a prototype stage. For fundraising itself, I really want to stick to just a community-driven model, like Kickstarter for one, something that can be tracked and lets me directly reward you for supporting and believing in me. I will personally be putting out a message in the Discord and on this YouTube channel if and when that does happen. If you don't hear about it from me personally, then it's a scam. I guarantee it. If I do end up seeking private funding, I will make sure whoever I end up working with understands this community and the players who are going to fill this game. I already have some people in mind that I'm going to pitch this idea to, and I'm located in Seattle, which is an absolute hotspot for the gaming industry. As for you, simply just watching this video, voting on polls, and telling me what you think about the game and the world is all I could ask for. Honestly, people are going to tell me that it's impossible, that it can't be done. My whole working life has been spent in and around farms and factories, things completely unrelated to game development. But with all the drive and passion that I have, all I need is just for one person to believe in me. I will get this done. You've heard this from me countless times, but I mean it every single time. Thank you, as always, for watching this video, and I'm excited to build this world with you. I'll see you in the next episode.